Hello friends, welcome to Lukman IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 9th and 10th May together. So let us see which are the important articles in today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, these are the important articles for mains purpose and for prelims purpose. Let us take overview of all these articles. First, yes, outreach and overreach. The context of the article is that in recent times we have seen that Supreme Court and many such high courts at state level has taken up suo motu cognizance of many petitions regarding the response of the government and its ineffectiveness towards dealing with COVID-19 pandemic, and there are some concerns involved, concerns that such kind of, let's say, judicial intervention may result into judicial overreach. So what are these concepts of judicial activism, judicial overreach and judicial restraints? All these aspects we will understand, and whether it is really judicial overreach or not also we are going to analyze here. Okay, so GS2 paper polity part. Second, a TRIPS waiver is useful but not a magic pill. Again on page number 6, editorial page, the article is discussing the TRIPS waiver, and recently US President had supported such kind of TRIPS waiver, or we can say that the patent rights, intellectual property rights waiver given to those COVID-19 vaccine production technologies and drugs, right. So in this context, the article is discussing that such waiver is useful to some extent, but it will not solve the problem of vaccine insufficiency. Okay, so from intellectual property right, GS3 paper, GS2 paper, international relations and governance perspective, we will discuss this article. Specifically for prelims related articles, Green Panel allows Great Nicobar plan to advance. Now from environment perspective, there was one article in February month 2021 in the Hindu newspaper regarding Niti Ayog's plan of, let's say, infrastructure development in Great Nicobar Island in Galatea Bay, a national park region of Great Nicobar, and how it impacts the wildlife, especially some vulnerable, endangered and critically endangered species. So article also mentions about these species, so this becomes important for our prelims examination. Okay, so we will try to understand their habitat and their conservation status accordingly. Then Rupsi Airport, Assam was recently was in news because the commercial operations of this Rupsi Airport, which were earlier had ended, now it has started under regional connectivity scheme UDAN. So that's why it was in news, Rupsi Airport near Dhubri region of Assam. Okay, so we'll look into this news also. And lastly, some COVID-19 related developments at national stage and developments at international level. Let us go into details of all these articles. Outreach and overreach. Now the words are very important, keywords, outreach and overreach. Yes, recently Supreme Court and many such high courts at state level has taken suo motu cognizance of various petitions before it regarding ineffective response by the central and state governments towards dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic situation in the country. Recently, Supreme Court had also formed 12-member national task force, especially regarding the judicial, or we can say that rational allocation of oxygen and other essential supplies, drug supplies in the country, right. So this particular national task force will allocate the oxygen supply and other essential supplies in future now. So this will be now judicially formed body. Along with that, many high courts in recent time, for example, Karnataka High Court had asked the central government, even ordered the central government to allocate certain amount of oxygen supply to the Karnataka state, right. Even Delhi High Court has taken many such directives, orders to central and Delhi state government. So is this resulting into judicial overreach? So let us try to understand these concepts now. First of all, we have to understand what do you mean by separation, or we can say that the separation of powers with checks and balances. This principle, which is present in our constitution and it is bedrock of constitutional democracy, Okay, so yes, separation of powers with checks and balances. What do you mean by separation of powers? Separation of powers with three arms of the state, that is executive, legislature and judiciary. Okay, so in US we have this watertight separation of powers between these three arms. However, in Indian constitution what we have adopted is not watertight separation of, let's say, the powers between these three arms of the state. Rather there is some kind of overlapping with checks and balances. That means the judiciary will have check on executive and executive will have check on judiciary. Yes, all these three have some kind of checks and balances with each other and exercising their power. Now in this respect we have to understand the concept of judicial activism. Second, judicial overreach, and third, judicial restraint. Now what do you mean by judicial activism? Yes, from time to time executive conducts its, or we can say that exercises its own powers, and when the executive is not able to exercise its power, then judiciary to some extent asks the central government or state government executives to do its duty. This to some extent we can say that judicial activism. And this judicial activism started with the introduction of this public interest litigation PIL during 1970s 1980s, right. So this innovative mechanism that started especially in the higher judiciary of high courts and Supreme Court, wherein locus standi has completely changed. There is some kind of, let's say, changes in the rules related to locus standi, and any person on behalf of other person whose fundamental rights have been abridged, impacted, can file petition. So to some extent it resulted into judicial activism. Okay, so now the judiciary, higher judiciary especially, is directing the central and state government to do its duty, do its function, exercise its powers, and whenever it is, let's say, impacting on the rights of the people, then also it is asking the state government to revert back, or central government. So this is called as judicial activism. Now what do you mean by judicial overreach? So while exercising such powers in the judicial activism, many a times the higher judiciary enters into domain of executive or legislature. That means it itself start legislating some guidelines, rules, which is the domain of executive and legislature. For example, we can take example of Vishaka guidelines. We can take example of, let's say, many such committees and commissions established by judiciary in various subjects for guidelines, right. So this is called as judicial overreach, right. So such kind of judicial overreach actually affects this particular principle of separation of powers with checks and balances. Now in this particular case, central government is arguing that the court should let central and state governments do its duty, exercise its powers to deal with this COVID-19 pandemic, and court should appreciate its work. Okay, this is the present stand taken by the central government before Supreme Court. So to some extent we can say this separation of powers is getting abridged according to central government. However, we have to understand that the Justice D.Y. Chandrachud of Supreme Court, who is actually listening to all these suo motu petitions in the Supreme Court, has clarified that court was not usurping the executive's role, but only wanted to facilitate a dialogue among the stakeholders. Okay. This one thing that Supreme Court has itself cleared the air here, that it is not entering into domain of executive. The second aspect we have to understand here, that whenever the fundamental rights of the people are affected, surely the people can go to the Supreme Court, and even if the person is not going to Supreme Court, the other person on his or her behalf can go to Supreme Court to seek the remedy under Article 32 of, yes, Indian Constitution, right? So right to remedy under Article 32 talks about this. Along with that, the Article 21, fundamental right under Article 21, right to life and access to the healthcare. This is being impacted during this pandemic situation, and that's why courts cannot remain silent in this situation. Okay, so to protect the life of the people, the courts are intervening, however, by maintaining some kind of restraint. This is how we have to understand the third concept, judicial restraint. From time to time, the top court, Supreme Court, has asked its judges as well as judges of high courts to maintain the judicial restraint and not overcome, or let's say go into the domain of executive and legislature. This is called as judicial restraint. Okay, so to some extent we can understand that Supreme Court is playing the role of outreach and not the overreach. Okay, Supreme Court is helping to some extent the central government and state government in dealing with this particular situation. Right. So yes, what kind of question we can expect? During COVID-19 pandemic, several high courts and Supreme Court are examining different aspects of pandemic response. Does this amount to judicial overreach? Justify your view. Just now we discussed that it does not amount to judicial overreach. At the same time, in future, judiciary have to also maintain the judicial restraint, recognize the work that is being done by the central and state governments, and ask them to do their duty. Okay, so in this manner we can deal with this particular issue. We have to understand, already UPSC has asked question on this principle of separation of powers with checks and balances in mains examination GS2 paper polity part. Again there can be question because the particular issue is in news. Fine? Okay. Moving on to next article, a TRIPS waiver is useful but not a magic pill. Okay, so how that we have to understand here. Why it was in news? Because yes, US declared its support for temporary waiver of TRIPS agreement, trade related intellectual property rights agreement. So yes, for COVID-19 vaccine at WTO. Okay, so such kind of waiver is supported by US now, though it is being opposed by many European Union countries like Germany. Okay, so at present the basic we need to know that Article 9 of WTO agreement, TRIPS agreement, allows waiving of obligation in exceptional circumstances, and surely the COVID-19 pandemic is such exceptional circumstance in this case. Now, why such waiver is not a magic pill? Why this particular waiver will not be sufficient? We have to understand the reasons. What are these reasons? First thing, even if such a waiver is given by WTO, so there will be many restrictions. What kind of restrictions? Because yes, a particular amount of vaccine production can be fixed by WTO. Along with that, a particular nation and export of vaccine to the particular nation, that amount of production will be allowed and not higher than that. Many such restrictions will be there. Second thing, we have to understand that yes, WTO is consensus based organization. It is consensus based organization, not like majority rule. Not like majority rule. So all countries or the members of WTO have to agree on this particular aspect, and therefore though US is now supporting, there will be many such talks and discussions which will delay, let's say, result, and we may not know the time limit when such kind of waiver and what will be such restrictions will be provided by WTO. The third aspect that we have to understand, the reason here is such kind of waiver will result into, let's say, the generic manufacturers. Generic manufacturers, especially in developing countries, they will get the know-how, or we can say that the transfer of technology, and they will start producing these vaccines and drugs. However, what kind of quality vaccines or drugs they are producing, who will decide that quality standard and evaluate those standards in these countries for those manufacturing, this is not clear, right? Along with that, fourth thing we have to understand, US is only supporting the waiver at WTO TRIPS agreement regarding only vaccine production and not the drugs and other therapeutics and technology which is required to deal with this COVID-19 pandemic, and which was advocated by the original petition, or we can say this request put forward last year by India and South Africa before WTO. Okay, so to some extent this is a restricted kind of thing. So what can be the way forward? These are the reasons we can understand that this is not going to be the magic pill. Now what way forward we can adopt here? Yes, Indian government should immediately put in place team of best intellectual property lawyers who could study the various TRIPS waiver scenarios and accordingly recommend changes to Indian laws or legal framework. This first thing should be immediately put in place. The countries should simultaneously address non-IP bottlenecks, non-intellectual property bottlenecks. What are these other bottlenecks? For example, technology transfer, production constraints, and other logistical challenges such as inadequacy of supply of raw material, supply chains, and yes, the raw material unavailability to the manufacturing vaccines and medicines. Such kind of non-intellectual property rights or property rights bottlenecks, they should be addressed by the countries simultaneously, right? So this is how we have to understand, this is not going to be the magic pill. To some extent it is going to be useful but not sufficient. So yes, similar kind of question we can expect here in GS3 paper, wherein we have intellectual property rights as the syllabus part, syllabus topic. Along with that, in GS2 paper, governance as well as international relations. TRIPS waiver for COVID-19 vaccines and drugs is useful but not sufficient. Examine the statement. So whatever the discussion that we have done at present, you give the context, then you give the usefulness of such waiver, and then explain these reasons that it is not going to be the magic pill, it is not going to be the sufficient, and provide way forward. Fine. So try to attempt this such kind of question and take input from this article. Specifically prelims related developments, Green Panel allows Great Nicobar plan to advance. Now Environment Appraisal Committee of Ministry of Environment and Forest Climate Change, though it has flagged serious concerns about Niti Aayog's ambitious project for Great Nicobar Island. However, the committee has removed the first hurdle faced by the project, that is, it has recommended for grant of term of reference for environmental impact assessment studies. Okay, so what this particular project involves in the Great Nicobar Island, it includes International Container Transshipment Terminal, a greenfield international airport, a power plant and township complex spread over this particular area and estimated to cost this much amount. 75,000 crore rupees. Now the concerns, impact on wildlife, especially the giant leatherback turtles, the world's largest marine turtles, Nicobar megapod, dugong, critically endangered Nicobar shrew. So these were mentioned in this article. You need to know about the conservation status, habitat, and the threats faced by these species in those areas. So let us try to understand the basic information about these species. Yes, giant leatherback turtle. This giant leatherback turtle is the largest of 7 species of sea turtles on the planet and most long ranging also. Leatherbacks are found in all oceans except Arctic and Antarctic, right? Along with that, conservation status listed in Schedule 1 of India's Wildlife Protection Act, and IUCN status is vulnerable. So try to remember this, Schedule 1 and vulnerable. They look like this You may have seen this photo. It is also given in this particular article in today's The Hindu newspaper. Now Nicobar megapod, it looks like this. Now megapods are those, actually they build large mound nests with soil and vegetation with eggs hatched by the heat produced by decomposition. Okay, they are found only in Nicobar Islands, this Nicobar megapods. Okay, along with that 2004 tsunami is believed to be the major cause of decline of their population. IUCN conservation status is vulnerable. So both species vulnerable IUCN status. Remaining two species that we are talking about, dugong, also known as sea cow. Also known as sea cow is the marine mammal, herbivorous marine mammal. Okay, herbivorous marine mammal, it feeds on sea grass in the coastal areas. Habitat, coastal areas, shallow, medium, deep, warm waters with sea grass beds. In India, they are found in Gulf of Kutch, the only population remaining in Western India, and the Gulf of Mannar. Okay, Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Mannar. Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Reserve has the largest population of dugongs in India. They are also found in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Just now we talked about this Galathea Bay National Park in Great Nicobar. Then conservation status, again vulnerable. We can see in 2013 such kind of question was asked. It was very tricky at that time. In 2013 you can see, consider the following animals: sea cow, sea horse, sea lion, and which of the above are mammals? Is or are mammals? Now yes, dugong, many times it is in news, so we know about sea cow that yes, it is mammal, but other two, very much confusion about other two. Let me tell you that this is a species of fish, sea horse, and wherein it has unique features like the eggs, basically the fertilized eggs are carried by the male fish here in this particular species variety, sea horse. And sea lions again are the species of unique mammals living in the oceans. So sea cow and sea lions, 1 and 3 is the correct answer. Okay, so this is how we have to understand the basic information and their the common names also. Sea cow, many times we know about dugong, but yes, it is also known as sea cow. So it looks like this one, large giant animal feeding on the sea grass on the seabed. Okay, along with that, Nicobar shrew. Nicobar shrew is critically endangered species of mammal. Okay, and it is endemic to Great Nicobar Islands of India. It is endemic to Great Nicobar and critically endangered. Actually, it is also called as Nicobar tree shrew. So it is living on the trees. Fine? Yes. So we can expect question in prelims examination based on this information. Hope Source as Second World War airport in Assam takes commercial wings. So this is Rupsi Airport. This is Rupsi Airport. Now this airport, built for war planes in 1939, took commercial wings on 8 May 2021. This war planes during World War II, which let's say this Rupsi Airport near Gauripur, about 15 km from Dhubri, Assam, was one of the South Asia's largest airports with 1.8 km runway, used by Allied aircrafts for supplying arms, manpower and ammunition to the forces in Burma and China during World War II. Now this is Rupsi. Rupsi Airport is Assam's 7th airport and 15th in the northeast, including Pakyong in Sikkim. Pakyong was in news in last 2-3 years ago for regional connectivity scheme UDAN. Okay, so this is in Sikkim, right? This was abandoned after last flight Vayudut from Dhubri to Guwahati in 1983. Now it has started with this regional connectivity scheme UDAN. Indore based company Fly Big would be operating the Kolkata Guwahati Rupsi flight under subsidized UDAN scheme for regional connectivity. Okay, so some airports, their names is important for prelims examination, which are very much in news. Along with that, those who are having geography optional subject, we can expect such map marking question, you need to remember Rupsi Airport, it is in Assam. Some COVID-19 related developments at national level. What are these developments? Yes, Supreme Court has constituted this 12-member national task force to streamline and ensure effective and transparent allocation of liquid medical oxygen to the states and union territories fighting COVID-19. Along with that, Supreme Court has turned humanitarian eye on over 4 lakh prison population inside overcrowded jails. It stressed on not ordering detention in the mechanical manner in cases involving punishment of less or up to 7 years imprisonment. Further, it ordered special committees or high-powered committees constituted in most states and UTs to screen prisoners and release them on interim bail. Okay, so basically it is for decrowding the overcrowded jails, looking into right to life as a fundamental rights of those prisoners during this COVID-19 pandemic situation. Along with that, Drugs Controller General of India has granted permission emergency use of anti-COVID-19 therapeutic application of drug 2-deoxy-D-glucose 2-DG developed by Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences Lab of DRDO in collaboration with Dr. Reddy's Laboratory, Hyderabad. Now this is good development. This is going to be in use within month. Okay. The amendments to Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010 enacted last year, that among the others made it compulsory for NGOs to open bank account in Delhi, has crippled the work for many organizations who are unable to receive foreign funds. So this was being criticized by NGOs. On one hand, the government is asking NGOs to help the state governments. NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, has written to state governments to take help of these NGOs. While on the other hand, these NGOs are facing many such problems, especially receiving the foreign aid, because of specific criteria mentioned in the recent Amendment Act last year 2020 to this Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, especially related to the bank account to be opened in one dedicated SBI bank in Delhi. Okay, so this was in news. And yes, lastly, some international developments. There was European Union India leaders meeting which was virtually held, and our Prime Minister and leaders of EU, they discussed on various measures and the outcome. India and European Union agreed to relaunch free trade negotiations by assuming talks that were suspended in 2013 for bilateral trade and investment agreement. They also discussed COVID-19 recovery plans and vaccine cooperation, adopted connectivity partnership document outlining the plans to cooperate on digital and infrastructure projects. They signed the contract for second tranche of $150 million from EU for Pune Metro Rail project. However, India failed to secure support of European leaders for its proposal at WTO at meeting the patent waivers for COVID-19 vaccine. Just now we discussed from men's perspective this issue. World Health Organization approved the Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine of China for emergency use. This is first Chinese vaccine to receive WHO, World Health Organization's green light. The WHO has already given emergency use listing to vaccines made by Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca. Fine. First batch of oxygen concentrators and ventilators donated by Red Cross Society of China arrived from China. Along with that, debris from last stage of China's Long March rocket that had last month carried a key component of its under construction space station fell into waters of Indian Ocean west of Maldives. The Long March rocket was carrying Tianhe or Heavenly Harmony module, which is first of 3 key components of construction of China's space station, which will be completed by end of next year. Tianhe will act the management and control hub of the space station. The name of this space station is called Tiangong or the Heavenly Palace. So Tianhe, Tiangong, Tianwen-1, all these are names of Chinese probes. This particular Tiangong is space station and its one of the module is Tianhe. Okay, so this information is important for prelims examination, science and technology, space science, space technology. Fine. Okay, so yes, these were important developments from today's The Hindu newspaper. For further information on editorial discussion classes or ED classes, wherein in-depth analysis of mains related issues and articles is done by Ansari sir and team, you can contact Lukman IAS. Thank you.